Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope everyone is having a great day here. It's 11 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the webinar. Before we begin, though, I wanted to tell you a little bit about me. I'm the CEO of Fairoaks IT, and we're a cybersecurity and managed services provider. We've got locations in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Franklin, Massachusetts. We've been in business since 1991. My career has brought me, to many different directions, but cybersecurity has certainly become home for me, and helping other small businesses stay secure is what gets me out of bed in the morning. I also spent some time working for a defense manufacturer on the U.S. Navy Seahawk helicopter program. So I get what mission critical means, and I know that your businesses have mission critical items too, and cybersecurity is one of those. That's why I've been able to help over 80 small businesses become safe and secure and stay secure. And I'm also the proud father of two fantastic boys. So why don't we go ahead and dive in. Again, thanks everybody for joining. And that's enough about me. But today I wanted to talk to you about an invisible threat that will completely destroy your business unless you hire an experienced partner who can detect the danger and protect your reputation and revenue. So what does all that mean? Well, I want to start by telling you a little story about a guy named Bob. Bob was the owner of a farm equipment company in the Midwest. They had about 100 employees. His MSP was getting alerts that someone inside of the company was trying to breach the firewall by clicking on a link to a malicious website. That firewall prevented the employee from going to the hacker's website, but then the employee tried again on a different computer. They were stopped again by the firewall, and then they tried again on a different computer, and they were stopped again and again. At this point, the MSP called Bob, the owner of the company here, to let him know that one of his employees was trying really hard to circumvent the company's cybersecurity processes. That's when Bob sheepishly told them that he was the one trying to click on the link. He thought the link would allow him to order a special part that he needed for a client. When the link didn't work on the first computer, he tried again on a different computer. When that didn't work, he went to another one. If it wasn't for the firewall and the active monitoring from his managed service provider, from his IT company, the owner of this company would have helped attackers get inside his own computer system. That would not have been good. Exceptional business leaders know that compliance isn't optional, it's essential. Bob's business had cybersecurity, like the firewall. Bob's business had policies and procedures about suspicious links. Bob's business had training about cybersecurity, and he still tried to click on the virus link repeatedly. We've all been there, I know that. Everything was in place except for the actual compliance. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. He didn't do what he was trained to do. Fortunately, Bob's business had an experienced technology partner who was monitoring compliance, and they prevented him from successfully circumventing the protections that were in place. Unfortunately, Bob's story is not the exception. For example, 75% of CEOs used unapproved applications. They're not modeling compliance for their organizations. Average business leaders think that compliance is optional, not essential. Don't be average, be exceptional. Compliance failures will completely destroy your business unless you hire an experienced partner who can detect the danger and protect your reputation and revenue. Throughout this presentation, I'll be sharing a checklist to help you evaluate your current provider. And here's the first item on that checklist. Like Bob, Bob's firewall, are they reviewing your firewall's event logs for suspicious activity? If Bob's MSP hadn't been doing that, he wouldn't have gotten a phone call, and he would have carried on his merry way until he actually got to that malicious link, and unfortunately perhaps infected his entire network and shut his company down. Not good. So the question is, do you want to be average? For example, do you want an average life and an average home and an average salary or an average car, or do you want to be exceptional? Let's focus on just the car for now. What's your dream car? Do you want something powerful and fast, like a Dodge Challenger Hellcat right here? Or something powerful and rugged and fast, like a Ford Raptor? Or something luxurious, like a Rolls-Royce Spectre? Or something rugged and luxurious, like a Land Rover? Most people will never own their dream car, so don't be average, be exceptional, regardless of what kind of car you want. A car is a relatively new dream. It's only been about 130 years since the first car was invented and sold. And here it is. Carl Benz patented the first car in 1886. Looks really comfortable, doesn't it? The first American car was sold by Charles Duryea in 1896. So I want to make you a deal. I will give you the car of your dreams on one condition. You can only drive it in 1886. Now, what would that look like? There'd be no paved highways. There'd be no gas stations. There'd be no mechanics. There'd be no road signs. There'd be no stop signs or traffic lights. There'd be no lane markings, and there wouldn't be any auto parts stores. Early cars offered a back-breaking ride, more like driving a rally car through the desert than driving a smooth track in a Formula One car. In other words, you would not be able to enjoy your dream car without a lot of the more mundane infrastructure improvements that we, take for granted today. To give you a sense of how bad driving used to be, let's take a look at the Transcontinental Convoy from 1919. More than 30 years after the car was invented, Dwight D. Eisenhower wanted to test the Army's capability to move troops, vehicles, and equipment across the country in case of an enemy attack. They moved 81 Army vehicles from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco. They went 3,250 miles along the way. They had 230 road incidents and 21 injuries. They broke 88 wooden bridges, and they averaged a speed of just 5 miles an hour. It took them more than 2 months to complete this journey. Wow, that's a long time. So for comparison, let's talk about something called the Cannonball Run. Some of you may have heard of it. It's an ongoing contest to see who can cross the country by car in the fastest time. The most recent fastest time happened in 2021. It was in an Audi S6. They went from New York to Los Angeles in 2,906 miles. They had 0 road incidents, unlike the Army in 1919, 0 injuries, 0 broken wooden bridges, and probably 0 wooden bridges at all, right? They averaged 110 miles an hour. That's 22 times faster than the Army was able to do it. They did it in 25 hours and 39 minutes. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, because Winston Churchill once said, the farther back you can look, the farther forward you're likely to see. If we can understand the history of safety, insurance, and compliance in the auto industry, it can help us to see the future of the same things, safety, insurance, and compliance in the digital world. So let's think about this. In 1909, there were only 200,000 cars in the US. But by 1916, there were 2.25 million cars in the US. This rapid change outpaced the creation of safety measures and laws to regulate new traffic safety and compliance. We just couldn't keep up with the technological advances. For example, 1901 was the first speed limit. 1903 was the first driver's license. 1908 was the first driver's license exam. And it wasn't until 1914 before there was a traffic light anywhere in the United States. 1915 before the first stop sign, 1924 before they put road stripes on the road, and in 1940 before they actually implemented the first paved interstate. But these firsts weren't always followed quickly or at all by complete adoption in any of the states across the country. So let's think about this. In 1903, Missouri had the first driver's license in the United States, but it wasn't until 1952 that they had the first driver's license exam. It took 49 years to require any driving knowledge or skill in order to get a license to drive. Scary. I would not have wanted to have been driving between 1903 and 1952. So in 1955, we had the first seatbelt law for cars. It took 69 years after the invention of the car for seatbelts to even be invented. And it wasn't until 1984 before the first seatbelt law for drivers. The seatbelts were in the cars, but no one was actually required to use them. It took 29 years to require people to actually wear seatbelts. An interesting note is that seatbelts are still optional in one state in the United States. Well, that state is New Hampshire. Their slogans, live free or die. Maybe it should be drive free and die. I don't know. Maybe they should pass a seatbelt law. In 1973 were the first airbags. In 1988 were the first standard airbags. 1998, the first mandatory airbags. It took 25 years to require cars to have front airbags. Now, the first airbags were in the 1973 Oldsmobile Toronado. In the last 25 years, vehicles have added side airbags, rear airbags, and curtain airbags, as well as sensors to detect and adjust to passenger size, seat position, seatbelt use, and severity of the crash. Safety and compliance are accelerating. It wasn't until 1910 that the first state had a drunk driving law, but it wasn't until 1988 that there was the first federal drunk driving law. It took more than 75 years to outlaw drunk driving. In 1985, it was still legal to drink while driving over 3,000 miles from the tip of Florida to the Canadian border in Ohio. Think about that. It wasn't that long ago. So what does all this mean? The first parking garage was built in 1918. The first parking meter was installed in 1935. Complex parking rules, restrictions, and regulations are now an integral part of modern life. And that's just about the automobile and driving. How many of you have ever gotten a parking ticket just because you couldn't decode the parking rules? Confusion makes compliance difficult, if not impossible. I feel bad for the folks in Denver. That's where this picture was taken. I would have no idea when to park if I saw the sign. In 1973 was the first cell phone call, talking about technology a little bit now. In 2001 was the first cell phone driving law. The first text message was sent in 1992, and the first texting and driving law wasn't until 2007. Now, a little bit of tidbit of information here. The first text message was sent from a guy named Neil Papworth. And what did that say? It said, "Merry Christmas." A little bit of information for you. So compliance with car safety laws and government vehicle regulations has become invisible to us because after 24 years of accumulated rules and requirements, it just feels normal. We're used to it. We largely understand the risks, and we have made decisions on how to deal with them. But what are the risks of non-compliance? First of all, lawsuits, drunk driving, personal injury or property damage, paperwork, ticket violations, accidents, and insurance related to all of those things. Notifications, all costing time and money and distractions, the fines for speeding and expired registration, parking violations, the time and attention for court dates and lawyer meetings and being pulled over, and cause for loss of customers due to negative publicity and reputational damage. Reduced revenue due to negative publicity, increased costs because of premium increases, deductibles, legal fees, and the stress and exhaustion due to all of the above. Now, it's easy to list these things, but what does all that look like in real life in 2023? Let's look at an example. Some of you may know this guy. Last year, University of Georgia won the championship in football. They were at the pinnacle. During that time, though, one of their players died in a wreck along with one of their staffers because they were speeding and under the influence of alcohol. During the next 6 months, more than 11 traffic violations were committed by members of the University of Georgia football team. That put a tremendous amount of pressure on the school and on the coach and distracted from the success of their organization. So think about that in terms of your business. Something bad happens to your business, you have a lot of wins, but the negative publicity is still gonna win, and people are gonna see that. It's not good. There are tremendous risks to non-compliance, even on a small scale. Now, there are 6 ways we can respond to risk. The first thing we can do is ignore it. Now, that's just kind of dangerous and foolish. You can't just ignore the risk, and it's not going to accomplish anything. The next thing we can do is try to avoid it, but this is unproductive and unrealistic. We can't avoid these risks, so we need to accept it. This is difficult, but it's necessary. And once we accept it, then we can make efforts to reduce it. This is complex, but feasible. Or we can try to transfer the risk. But once we, or we can try to transfer the risk. And this is possible with compliance. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. How can you transfer the risk appropriately and safely in your business? Because it isn't possible to eliminate those risks. Now, there's compliance in cybersecurity guidelines and government regulations feels less essential and more voluntary because technology is relatively new and constantly evolving. Unlike cars, we're not used to it yet. We don't completely understand the risks, and we haven't made informed decisions on how to deal with them. If you want to know what you should be doing with digital compliance in your business, just compare it to what you already do with vehicle compliance. Because only average business leaders believe that compliance is optional, not essential. But exceptional business leaders know that compliance isn't optional, it's essential. Now, first, most vehicle compliance is related to safety and reliability. Let's start with cars. Let's go back to your dream car. I want you to imagine it. I'm not talking about a nice car that you want and could probably afford in a couple of years. I'm talking about your dream car, one that's probably out of reach, but that you would love to have if you won the lottery or sold your business for a premium price. Are you picturing it? All right, now think about what you want that car to do for you and what you're going to do for that car. The first thing we want is for our cars to be safe and reliable. We don't want them to break down, and we don't want to get in an accident. There are more than 7 million car accidents in the United States each year, and almost 50,000 people die in those collisions annually. So cars come with an incredible number of safety features: seat belts, anti-lock brakes, crash sensors, Airbags, roll cages, lane change warnings, tire pressure sensors, mirrors, brake lights, accident monitoring, adaptive cruise control that'll slow you down if you get too close to the car in front of you. Your wipers come on automatically if it starts to rain. Your lights come on automatically when it gets dark. If you think about it, most of the features of a car are actually safety features. And even with all those safety features, you'd still buckle up and you'd still drive carefully so that nothing bad happens to your sweet new ride. That's compliance. Like Tom Crosley, the founder of Fairoaks IT, says, nobody believes they will be in a car wreck when they leave the house in the morning, but you still put your seatbelt on. You don't expect a life-threatening crash, but you still buckle up. But what about reliability? If your dream car breaks down, are you going to watch a YouTube video and try to fix it yourself? Probably not. Are you going to go to AutoZone and pick up the cheapest replacement part you can find? Again, probably not. Are you just going to take classes to become a certified mechanic just so you can take care of your dream car? Probably not. You're going to go to a certified mechanic who even specializes in that type of particular car. You're going to get all the oil changes. You're going to check the tire pressure, rotate the tires, get them aligned. You're going to change the filters and the fluids on a regular basis. If a warning light comes on, you're not going to ignore it. You're going to immediately schedule an appointment and get it checked out. You're going to constantly get it detailed and washed inside and out. You're going to make sure that nothing wrong happens to your dream car. Your spouse will probably get jealous, though, because you treat your car better than you treat them, but you care more about just safety and reliability. You want your car to run smoothly, but you also want to make sure it doesn't get stolen. You care about security. And in the United States, a car is stolen every 41 seconds. That means that 65 cars will be stolen just during this presentation. Almost 1 million cars are stolen every year. So, what are the worst cities for car theft in the United States? The first one, Bakersfield, California. The second one, Denver, Colorado. The most commonly stolen vehicles are Honda Civics and Ford F-150s. So if you want to protect your dream car, make sure it's not a Honda Civic or a Ford F-150 and move away from Bakersfield or Denver. Well, that's not necessarily something you could do. Think about how many people own Honda Civics, Ford F-150s, how many people might live in Bakersfield or Denver. It's just a law of how many people actually have those cars. That's why they get stolen so often. So maybe you want to make your new home in Harrisonburg, Virginia, or State College, Pennsylvania. These are the two safest cities for vehicles in the United States. But if you want to keep your dream car away from thieves, you'll also want to make sure you have every possible anti-theft device. You have alarms and trackers, auto-locking doors, and a remote immobilizer. You might even buy the club to lock the steering wheel. When you park your car, you'll always roll up the windows, lock the doors, take the keys with you, set the alarm, hide valuable items inside the car at night. You'll make sure to park in a well-lit area. And at home, you park it in the garage and set your alarm. You never leave your dream car in a bad neighborhood. You're going to be vigilant, not complacent. You don't want anything to happen to your car. All those things that you do to keep your car safe, that's compliance and security. If you're really serious about security, you could even get this bulletproof Mercedes-Benz GL 550 that this Texas Armoring Corporation makes. But is that realistic? Maybe not. So as automobile journalist Joe Santos explains, good vehicle security has many layers. We're going to be talking a lot about that today. Ultimately, if you want to keep your car safe, there isn't any one solution that will keep a thief from stealing it. If a thief wants your car, they will find a way to get it. In that case, it could be better to add multiple layers of security. Lock your car, set your car alarm, put that steering wheel lock on in order to keep your car sitting right where you parked it. A steering wheel lock could work in some situations, but it's far better when combined with another anti-theft device. But even with all these safety and security features, you know that it's still possible that you might be in an accident. There are a lot of bad drivers on the road and you can't control every variable. You know that if somebody really wants to steal your car, they probably can. If Vin Diesel and Ludacris from the Fast and the Furious come after your car, there's nothing you can do to stop them. So you're going to want really good insurance, all right? Now, let's talk a little bit about insurance. The first car insurance was offered in 1898. The first car insurance law was in 1925, and by 1970, now notice that's 45 years after the first car insurance law started, most states started to require insurance. It took 72 years before the car insurance was mandatory throughout the country. And you guessed it, if you do not need car insurance in New Hampshire. So you want your insurance to replace your car if it's stolen, right? And insurance to replace your car if it's damaged in an accident. But you know that your biggest financial risk is the medical costs, lawsuits, not property damage. So you want insurance to protect you from the liability of hurting someone on the road. Collision insurance and liability insurance, you know, the good stuff, not some cheap policy from some unknown insurance company. They'll pay for things like a tow truck if your car breaks down or if you get a flat tire. They'll pay for a rental car while your car is getting repaired. So that was insurance. Let's talk a little bit about compliance. You probably aren't thinking about this when you get your dream car. It's almost invisible, but it starts right away. You can't buy your dream car without paying for tax, title, license, registration. The law requires you to have car insurance as well. There are thousands of state, local, and federal regulations related to owning and driving your car. And I found some ridiculous traffic laws while I was researching this presentation. I want to share a few of them with you. So first of all, in Alabama, they have a law that you cannot drive while blindfolded. Interesting. In Arkansas, they have a law that you can't honk your horn anywhere that serves cold drinks or sandwiches. Also very interesting. After 9 p.m. in Alaska, it's illegal to tie a dog to the roof of your car. Interesting. Not sure I would do that anyway, but illegal after dark. There are speed limits and seatbelt laws and traffic lights and emissions tests and annual state inspections. You have to pass a test and get a driver's license. You have to regularly renew that license by waiting for hours at the DMV. And the list goes on and on and on forever. If you ignore these laws, you have to pay fines, or you could even lose your dream car if you get in too many accidents or get too many traffic tickets. Then you might lose your insurance. Or it might become so expensive that you just can't afford to drive your dream car anymore. Compliance is something that we don't think about, but it's everywhere, and it affects every aspect of our life on the roads and highways. Safety and reliability, security, insurance, and compliance. These are the 4 layers. These 4 layers are crucial to owning, driving, and enjoying your dream car. And these same 4 elements are crucial to managing your business technology. If you want to understand how to manage information technology, just follow the same principles you use to manage your vehicles. The evolution of automobiles and the automobile industry is very similar to the evolution of computers in the information technology industry. So let's start with safety and reliability. You want your computers to run smoothly. You want your email system to be reliable. You don't want downtime in your servers, just like your car. You definitely don't want your systems to crash. Think about that. We use the same language of vehicles to talk about when computers break down. We call it crashing. We call the internet the information superhighway. So you need an experienced IT partner, but hiring a company to manage your IT can be a difficult decision. So let me start with another story here. A nonprofit in Virginia was hesitant to invest in a backup system for their data. It just seemed too expensive and maybe unnecessary. But then the organization's executive director saw their friend's business get hacked and realized that the importance of backing up their information. They worked with an MSP, a managed service provider, to put proper backups into place. Very soon after that, they lost a server to a power outage during a severe storm. And because they had the backups in place, they were able to quickly recover everything that they lost. Online and offline backup systems are crucial layers, just like layers of security on a vehicle, for ensuring the safety and reliability of your technology. So another example of this is a CPA firm in Missouri. They had a vendor installing software in their system. So the tech was new and was completing the installation for the first time. During the process, he accidentally eliminated thousands of records from their database. Not good looks. The tech was embarrassed and frustrated because this loss could have been very costly and time-consuming to fix. Fortunately, the company had invested in a backup system with their MSP, and when they noticed the lost data, they were able to work together to quickly restore it via the backup systems. So let's look at your partner, another item on our checklist. Have they implemented secure backups for your data and systems? Are they monitoring and managing vendor supplier access to your systems? Both good questions. So again, exceptional business leaders know that compliance isn't optional, it's essential because there's no reliability without compliance. But you want more than just safety and reliability. You want security because you can't guarantee your safety on the roads, even if you drive safely when other people are driving recklessly. And people definitely drive recklessly. So as Fred Langa, tech editor and author of Windows Secrets says, just as drivers who share the road must also share responsibility for safety, we all now share the same global network and must regard computer security as a necessary social responsibility. So we need safety and reliability, but we also need security. Some small business owners mistakenly believe that they're too small to get hacked. They think cyber criminals aren't interested in their company. But that's not true. Average leaders think they are too small to be attacked. Exceptional leaders know that the small and medium-sized businesses are actually very likely to experience cyber attacks. In fact, 43% of all cyber attacks are directed towards small businesses. As Justin Weller from the cybersecurity firm Blackpoint explains, you're not too small, you're just too small to be on the news. Unfortunately, the consequences of these attacks are devastating. 60% of small and medium-sized companies go out of business within 6 months after a cyber attack. Think about that. The majority of businesses after a cyber attack go out of business and shut their doors. That's a crazy statistic. This is because the average cost of a data breach is $3,860,000. Could your business stomach that? Probably not. This is just too much for most businesses to handle. So you want your technology to be secure. You don't want to get hacked. You don't want to pay a ransom to regain access to your company's data. You don't want malware or viruses. You don't want your website to disappear. You don't want to lose your reputation because you revealed sensitive customer data, perhaps. There's a simple solution. Just shut everything off and disconnect it from the internet. Dan Farmer, a computer security researcher, explains it this way. If security were all that mattered, computers would never be turned on, let alone hooked into a network with literally millions of potential intruders. But going off the grid isn't an option for your business. You need a safe and reliable system that you can operate securely. There's a surprising connection between car theft and cyber attacks. I shared earlier that a car is stolen every 41 seconds. Cyber attacks occur at almost the exact same rate, every 39 seconds. Cybersecurity advocate Paul Herka says that security is like locking your car. It doesn't stop the bad guys, but if it's good enough, they may move on to an easier target. Apparently, road construction signs are easy targets. You guys might remember some of this from the news a few years back. Hackers regularly take over these signs in cities throughout the country and share ridiculous messages with drivers who are stuck in traffic. For example, in San Francisco, commuters were recently warned that Godzilla was running rampant in the city. Oh my goodness. Other hackers who also use this same theme, their signs warn people to watch out for zombies and dangerous rogue pandas on a rampage. Another sends out a cry for help from someone trapped in the sign factory. You don't need to make it impossible for hackers to breach your systems. You just need to make it as inconvenient as possible, and that isn't as hard as it might seem. As we saw in the story of the Virginia nonprofit I talked about, a good backup system is important for safety and reliability, but backups are also a crucial part of cybersecurity. Again, I'll say that again. Backups are also a crucial part of cybersecurity. In 2019, the office manager for a chemical and ink manufacturer in California called their MSP and explained that they couldn't access some of their files. After logging into their system and taking a look, it was clear they'd been hit with a ransomware attack. Within an hour, their MSP had them up and running on their backup server, fully functioning with no data loss. And the best part was that the MSP security expert was able to do all of this remotely from a hotel room in Las Vegas where he was attending a cybersecurity conference. What are the odds? So now it's time to check your partner. Have they installed ransomware-proof backups for all of your data and systems? Good question to ask. So what would it cost if they didn't have an experienced partner and proper backups in place? Well, $133,000, and that's on the rise, by the way, very recently, is the average cost of a ransomware attack. And this isn't an isolated incident. Stories like this happen all the time. Every day, companies avoid disaster because they take security seriously and invest in systems that reduce the probability that they will be attacked or that attacks will be successful. This is important. Companies that avoid disaster invest in systems. Again, I'll say that again because it's very important. Companies that avoid disaster invest in systems. It doesn't happen by accident. They don't just rely on a single system for protection. They have multiple systems, the layers of security. They have multiple layers of protection. If they can't prevent an attack, they can still prevent damage from the attack. And if damage occurs, they can help you recover what was lost. James Scott advises the US government on cyber warfare and cybersecurity. He argues that there's no silver bullet solution with cybersecurity. A layered defense is the only viable defense. So why are layers so important? Well, as Doug Thies, Director of National Strategy at Expedient, explains, a security system with several layers is difficult to hack. So even if your data is targeted, getting through the many tiers of security would still be a hassle. The simplest of programs, such as a free online email account, they have multiple layers of security. Even if accessing your accounts takes a few extra steps, it's still worth the effort. That's important too. Folks need to realize that it's okay to be a little inconvenienced in the sake of security. It'd be much better to be inconvenienced every now and then, again, than be hacked or ransomware, any of those bad things. So it's better than losing all your data. Using a firewall, making sure that your antivirus software is updated, run your antivirus checks frequently, and update your programs regularly. These are all part of maintaining your personal data security. Cybersecurity, education, and training for employees is another crucial layer. For example, back in Virginia, there was another small chemical manufacturer made up of mostly older employees in a rural part of the state. Company's owner was George, and he was 67 years old. George was smart enough to partner with an MSP and invest in cybersecurity, but he was skeptical. He didn't think that he could really understand all the complicated technological concepts. In one training session, he actually shouted out, "I can't learn this, I'm a dinosaur." But he did learn it. And one day he got an email from his company's health insurance provider. It looked suspicious, just like the emails from his MSP cybersecurity training. So he called the insurance company and let them know that they might have been hacked. He also recommended that they work with his MSP to resolve the problem. They researched the issue, changed passwords, turned on multi-factor authentication, and resolved the issue, which was isolated to a single email account, thank goodness. What George experienced is known as a phishing attack. The hacker sends a malicious link via email with the goal of infecting the receiver's computer systems. Some estimates say that 90% of attacks start with phishing. If an old guy out in the country in the middle of Virginia can identify and stop a cyber attack at someone else's company, so can you. You just need to treat your computer like you treat your dream car. Focus on safety and reliability and invest in security and get a good insurance policy. Because again, exceptional business leaders know that compliance isn't optional, it's essential because there is no security without compliance. So let's check out your partner. Have they provided cybersecurity training? Do they run regular phishing tests to assess your employees? Are their employees regularly trained on the newest cybersecurity threats and technologies? Again, all good questions to ask. You're trying to do everything right, but you know that no one can completely eliminate the possibility of a cyber attack. So just like professional car thieves, professional hackers can access almost anything. If China or Russia or North Korea comes after your technology, they're probably going to win. Just like Vin Diesel deciding to steal your car, there are some criminals that you aren't going to stop. You know that you can reduce the probability of an attack, you can make yourself less of a target, but you can't guarantee your company's safety. As Gene Spafford, a computer science professor at Purdue, sarcastically explained, the only truly secure system is one that is powered off, cast in a block of concrete, and sealed in a lead-lined room with armed guards. But you can't run your business that way. In 1988, there was the first internet virus. In 1997, there was the first cyber insurance policy. Cybersecurity insurance isn't new. It's 25 years old. As Rusty Goodwin from the Midstate Group explains, a mature risk posture is achieved with security, insurance, and compliance. Smart business owners understand the importance of insurance, but currently, crazy statistic, only 32% of companies have purchased cyber liability coverage. Don't be average, be exceptional, be part of that 32%. All three layers are crucial. You want multiple layers of security, but you also need other layers of protection in addition to the security. You need insurance and compliance. So what about your partner? Have they recommended cyber liability insurance? Have they reviewed your cyber liability insurance policy? If you have one, does your partner have adequate insurance on their own business if they make a mistake? So how can cybersecurity insurance help you? Let's look at an example from Texas. A local pizza restaurant had a disgruntled employee. Can you relate? We've all been there. How many of us have had unhappy employees over the years? The employee used access to the company's email system to create a fake employee with their outside payroll service provider. Then they authorized a very large check to be deposited into their account. However, the payroll provider had procedures in place to prevent this exact type of attack. And when a new employee was added to the system, the first check wouldn't be directly deposited into the employee's account. Instead, a paper check would be created, reviewed, and then mailed. During that process, the fake account was discovered and the payment was never sent. Dr. Larry Poneman found that this type of internal attack is becoming even more common. He said that we discovered in our research that insider threats are not viewed as seriously as external threats like a cyber attack. But when companies had an insider threat in general, they were much more costly than external incidents. This was largely because the insider is smart and they have the skills to hide the crime for months, years, or sometimes forever. Cyber attacks come from outside of the company. Compliance issues come from inside of your company. But that's not the end of the story. When the pizza place found out about the hack, they sued their payroll provider for mismanagement in order to defend themselves from the lawsuit. The payroll company paid almost $50,000 for a forensic audit to demonstrate that they had done nothing wrong. They had followed proper procedures and avoided a potential loss for the pizza restaurant. The audit revealed that the pizza restaurant had been negligent and had insufficient cybersecurity processes that then allowed the employee to access the payroll system. The cost of the audit was paid by the payroll company's insurance provider. This process was important to protect the company's reputation. If customers believed that the payroll company was unreliable, then they wouldn't be able to continue to build their business and would rapidly start losing their existing clients. And this is not just about protecting your reputation with customers. It's also about protecting your reputation with investors or potential buyers. As Malcolm Marshall, global head of security at KPMG, warns, investors see data breaches as a threat to a company's material value and feel discouraged, and investing in a business that has had its sensitive information compromised. Exceptional business leaders know that compliance isn't optional. It's essential because there is no insurance without compliance. But insurance isn't enough. You have to have compliance. You actually have to follow the rules that are put in place. Because insurance can't restore your reputation. It can't return your customers and it can't replace your revenue. The only way to get affordable insurance coverage is to create audits and enforce cybersecurity processes and procedures. And even then, the risk might be too great for an insurance company. You'll need to protect yourself as best as you can with solid processes and procedures. If that sounds ridiculous, just look at State Farm and all the state's recent decisions to not offer new home insurance policies in California due to the outside risks in that state. You also know that your insurance might not pay your claim unless you can demonstrate that you were following your written policies and procedures. Insurance carriers can and will deny payment of your claim if you fail to actually implement the cybersecurity measures required to be eligible for coverage. When a breach happens, they will investigate how it happened and whether you were negligent before they decide if they want to pay your claim. The bottom line here is don't fill out your cyber liability insurance application and just pencil whip the thing. It actually needs to be the honest truth. Because if you ever go to file a claim, and that's the whole reason why you have insurance, and they find that you forgot to cross a T or dot an I anywhere in there, chances of your claim being denied are very high. But the UK Information Commissioner Elizabeth Denham worries that when it comes to data protection, small businesses tend to be less prepared. They have less to invest in getting it right. They don't have a compliance team or data protection officers, but small organizations often process a lot of personal data, and their reputation and liability risks are just as real. So, what are some of the most common compliance risks? Will you manage employee information? Do you have customer data? You have to be compliant with Federal Trade Commission guidelines, and you probably, if you're processing credit cards, have to manage, excuse me, have to manage those processing rules as well. The last example about the pizza restaurant and the payroll provider illustrated the connection between insurance and compliance. Both layers are crucial, but compliance is also important on its own. Regardless of insurance, in fact, it might even keep you from needing to use your insurance. Now, you might be wondering, what are you supposed to be complying with? Well, there's a lot of local regulations, state regulations, federal regulations, credit card processing rules, vendor contracts, customer contract, insurance contracts, investor contracts, and internal policies and procedures. How many of you have ever heard of these acronyms? There's HIPAA, CMMC, COPA, FERPA, GDPR, NIST, PCI. It's hard to keep up with the constantly expanding list of all of these acronyms, much less stay compliant with any of their requirements. But even internal processes are important. An internal employee for rural hospitals shut off their multi-factor authentication for the CEO's email during a software installation. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, it's that thing where you try to log in, it says, hold on, let me send you a code to another email address, or a message is going to pop up on your phone, and you type that in to confirm that it's you. There's nothing inherently wrong with what this person did with shutting that off to do a software installation, but unfortunately, they forgot to turn it back on when they were done. Shortly after this, the CEO's email got hacked, and the hacker used a fake invoice to send it to the accounts payable team there using the CEO's email account. However, the hospital had an internal process that requires invoices to be sent to accounts payable with a copy to the CFO. The hacker couldn't have known this, so they didn't copy the CFO in their invoice email. The mistake allowed the hospital to catch the fraud, and the invoice was never paid. All of this was discovered by their partner, their managed service provider, who then went in to reset the compromised accounts and reactivate the multi-factor authentication. When the security layer broke down, they were protected by a layer of compliance. So what about your IT partner? Have they implemented multi-factor authentication? Do they have controls in place to force your employees to use strong passwords? Do they offer dark web monitoring that notifies you if your passwords are being sold or traded? Have they configured your email system to prevent sending or receiving confidential or protected data? Similarly, an electronic parts company signed up for cybersecurity services. After experiencing a scare while setting up a new security system, the MSP discovered a router that needed to be patched. The internal employee kept offering to do it, but they never actually did. Fortunately, the MSP's cybersecurity services include a SOC, which stands for Security Operations Center, and it does constant monitoring of the company's systems. The SOC noticed an active cyber attack and shut down the power to the router, which stopped the attack. They then completed the necessary patch, installed relevant updates, and verified that the attack hadn't harmed any of the company's assets. So does your partner regularly patch and update your critical systems? And if they do, how often do they do this? Is it daily, weekly, monthly? Another great question to ask. So compliance is important and is becoming even more important. Michael Vadas, the former director of the FBI Cybercrime Protection Program, believes that in the very near future, cybersecurity exercises are going to be absolutely expected of all companies by federal regulators and state regulators. Robert Herjavec, you may know him from Shark Tank, agrees, predicting that America should get ready. Cybersecurity regulations will soon be coming to the United States, and that's actually a good thing. He firmly believes that the US will pass similar regulations like GDPR in Europe over the next couple of years. So we've got safety and reliability, security, insurance, and compliance, the four crucial layers to your protection of your business. And now it's time to take this analogy about cars and computers a little further, because cars are actually turning into computers, and cars and businesses are becoming more automated. Understanding these two new realities will help prepare you for the future of your business and your industry. First, you don't have to treat your computers like a car anymore, because cars have essentially become mobile computers. For example, a car mechanic isn't even called a mechanic anymore. They're usually called a service technician. They're a tech, just like the person who fixes your computers. They aren't up to their elbows in grease and oil most of the time. They use diagnostic tools and computers that tells them what's wrong with your car, and then they recommend the proper repairs. Very often that repair is related to microchips and electronics, not the mechanical parts of the car. This transition has happened slowly, but you can see it clearly in a microchip shortage that began during the pandemic. A shortage of chips led to a shortage of cars. Additionally, just think about your car key. It's probably not a metal key that you turn to a lock anymore. It's a key fob with a remote start button. Your key is a mini computer. In fact, I recently drove a rental car with a key that limited both my vehicle's speed and the audio system's volume. That's automated compliance. Similarly, computers run on electricity, and now cars run on electricity as well, because cars are becoming computers. It won't be long until car thieves will be hackers. It's not Vin Diesel from the Fast and the Furious that you'll have to worry about. It's Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. Tesla is the best example of a car becoming a computer. They also take automation to the next level. Teslas don't have a model year like traditional cars. They can be updated regularly and automatically overnight while charging in the garage. Just like your phone can add new features with updated software, a Tesla that was built in 2019 can add new features that were developed in 2023. Tesla is the most computerized car and the most automated car with fully autonomous features coming soon. And that takes us to the last similarity between cars, computers, and businesses. Automation is becoming essential for both businesses and vehicles, and automation is driven by computers and technology. For example, most of the safety features that we discussed earlier are automated. They protect drivers from their own mistakes. They also help drivers accomplish more than they could ever do on their own, so they can focus on driving safely. Anti-lock brakes engage and disengage very quickly and automatically. Crash sensors automatically detect potential accidents. Airbags automatically deploy during a crash. You have lane change warnings and automatically detect when other vehicles are around your car. Tire pressure sensors automatically provide warnings. Brake lights automatically come on when the brake pedal is pressed. Accident monitoring automatically recognizes when the vehicle crashes and calls for help. Adaptive cruise control automatically adjusts the speed of the vehicle. Windshield wipers come on automatically if it starts to rain, and the headlights come on automatically when it gets dark. Think about an automatic transmission. If you've ever driven a manual transmission or a stick shift, then you don't have to imagine what it's like to do all the shifting yourself. Power steering is another great example. If you've ever driven with a rack and pinion steering, you know that power steering doesn't steer for you, but it makes the steering much easier. Your car is even built by robots and designed on computer-aided software. You can make a service appointment for your car online. You can buy your car using an app. The car's delivery is also automated, and it won't be long until a Tesla will be able to deliver itself. There are so many examples of this for small businesses as well. Automated ordering, automated email notifications, automated tracking, updates, delivery confirmations, calendar notifications. Chatbots can handle routine customer inquiries and search databases to provide common responses to common questions. Efficiency, reliability, and availability are all advantages of automation for small businesses and cybersecurity. Software is a form of automation, and the beauty of automation is that it is always on, always working, and always protecting. It never goes to sleep, and it never goes home. For example, an electrical company was looking for new employees. Because of this, their HR department was receiving a lot of resumes. One of those resumes included an infected link to ransomware. An employee opened the infected link, but the ransomware was blocked by the antivirus software and kept it from infecting the company's servers. The employee's email was damaged, but it was restored from a backup that the MSP had. Then the same employee opened another infected link in the same way that same week, and the antivirus protected the company again, and their email was restored from the backup. Then the same employee did the same thing again for the third time in the same week, and the antivirus protected the company for the third time. This sounds like Bob from that farm equipment company in the Midwest that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. When the compliance layer broke down, the security layer protected them. Email, security, training, and compliance are all crucial because 94% of all malware attacks are initiated via email. So what is your partner doing for you about this? Have they implemented web filtering technology to prevent your employees from going to infected websites? Have they recommended the replacement of your antivirus software with a more advanced endpoint security solution? Again, two more good questions to ask your current provider. But technology doesn't just replace people, it also assists them. This is important because when it comes to cybersecurity, people are your biggest asset and your biggest liability. This illustrates the importance of proper training and having the right tools installed in your systems. Both are crucial. It's not just one or the other because employees can be the last line of defense when hackers actually do breach your systems. Former FBI agent Eric O'Neill, pictured here, shares the story of an attempted hack of a water treatment plant in Florida. So an employee at this plant noticed that the cursor on their computer was moving around on its own. Then he watched while the hacker increased the level of sodium hydroxide in the water supply to 100 times higher than normal levels. Now, sodium hydroxide is the main ingredient in liquid drain cleaners. It's used to control the acidity of the water and remove metals in water treatment plants. Ingesting too much of it can cause burns, vomiting, severe pain, bleeding, a lot of nasty stuff. After the hacker exited the computer, the operator immediately reduced the sodium hydroxide back down to its normal level and then notified his supervisor. This is a great illustration of the importance of employee training and compliance, just like a power steering or an automatic transmission. So automation doesn't always eliminate the need for people. It just gives them better tools. For example, a $20 million marketing company in upstate New York worked with companies that required compliance but were unable to verify their own compliance internally. Additionally, a vulnerability scan showed them that they had major weaknesses in their cybersecurity. So they hired an MSP to help them increase both their security and their compliance. So part of their new cybersecurity system was a SOC. We talked about this earlier, a Security Operations Center. Within the first 3 days, the SOC team responded to more than 100 alerts on just the CFO's machine alone. The SOC cleaned up the existing issues and since then has stopped 18 new attacks, including ransomware on the company's systems. This example illustrates the importance of security and compliance, but maybe more importantly, it demonstrates the value of people and technology working together. It isn't one or the other, both are crucial. So does your partner recommend or perform a yearly risk assessment? Have they performed a vulnerability scan in the last 12 months? In July of 2021, a healthcare provider with over 100 employees had their email system compromised. Their MSP detected the breach very quickly and resolved the problem in a few hours. They also prevented the hackers from accessing sensitive data. So has your partner explained and documented what you should do if your systems are compromised? Quick detection and recovery are crucial. As Ted Schlein, the CEO of Fortify Software, explains, most people are starting to realize there are only two different types of companies in the world: those that have been breached and know it, and those that have been breached and don't know it. An MSP owner in California says that it is very common for companies to be unaware that their systems haven't compromised at all. When we onboard new clients, he said, and install our tools, we find a myriad of things our new clients never knew about. Our security tools have detected hacker footholds and workstation vulnerabilities the previous MSP never patched. And recently, a new client had an employee who installed remote access software on their workstation to get tech support from a friend, and the owner had no idea about it. Research indicates that it takes companies an average of 197 days to detect a breach. That means that the bad actors could be lurking within your network for 197 days, more than half a year. And even when they detect a breach, it takes another 68 days to contain it. This is why Schlein strongly argues that prevention is not sufficient, and you're going to have to invest in detection because you're going to want to know what system has been breached as fast as humanly possible, so that you can contain it and remediate it. Research supports this. Companies that can detect a breach in 30 days or less can reduce potential losses by more than $1 million. Don't be average, be exceptional. One way to ensure both quick detection and response is with managed detection and response. Another example here, a small city government in Massachusetts had recently hired an MSP who implemented cybersecurity systems and training. Unfortunately, employees still forwarded a malicious link, and then that initiated a ransomware attack. Now, that attack was noticed over the weekend by their technicians with a managed detection and response tool, and they fought back and forth with the Russians until Monday, when they finally won the battle and saved the city millions of dollars in ransom and reputation. If automation is becoming integral to running a business effectively, then managed service providers aren't just service providers anymore. They are an indispensable partner as you try to grow and manage your increasingly automated and technological business. So has your partner met with you in the last 3 months to specifically review what they're doing to protect your business? Do they have documentation to demonstrate compliance with all the relevant regulations? Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, explains why technology is becoming more and more important to small businesses. He argues that technology is the link between the business and the customer. This means that making sure your technology is safe, reliable, secure, insured, and compliant is becoming more and more important. It is absolutely essential. Just like cars are becoming computers, your business is no longer separate from technology. Your business is technology. Exceptional business leaders know that compliance isn't optional, it's essential because every company is now a technology company. So again, safety and reliability, security, insurance, and compliance, those are the four crucial layers. So we started this presentation with your dream car, but you own a business, so you don't just have one car, you have a fleet of cars, and your employees drive them. It's hard to track all the oil changes and tire rotations and state inspections. It's hard to know if they wear their seatbelts or drive the speed limit or text and drive or drink and drive. It's hard to know if they leave the car running while they run into the store to get a few things. And sometimes they drive their own car while they're working because they like that better than the company car. Sometimes they drive their motorcycle or bicycle or snowmobile to meetings with their clients. And sometimes they take clients out for a ride in their ATVs because that particular client is cool and would never sue if anything went wrong. Sometimes they let their friend work on the company car because they really seem to know a lot about cars. And then they let their mom drive the company car when the car breaks down. And they even made an extra key for the company car just in case. But hey, don't worry, it's locked up at home. Well, at least they think it is. Does your insurance policy cover all that? Do your policies prohibit all of that? Are you enforcing those policies? Do you even know what your employees are doing? If this sounds ridiculous, it's not. Your employees are using their brother's laptop on a family vacation. They're letting their mom use the laptop to check some email and do some online shopping. They gave their login information to a friend or have it on a sticky note on the refrigerator. They're using their personal phone or their personal email, both instead of the company's systems. And they don't have a password to lock their phone because, hey, it's too much of a hassle. So find an experienced partner today because compliance failures will completely destroy your business unless you hire an experienced partner who can detect the danger and protect your reputation and revenue. And for everyone's reference, here's the complete list of our IT partner checklist. If you'd like a copy of it, feel free to reach out anytime, but here it is on the screen. Also, if you want to know how your company's cybersecurity stacks up, just head on over to our website, fill out the form, fairoaksit.com/discovery call. No cost, no obligation. We'll come to your office, conduct a cybersecurity threat assessment. So thanks for joining our webinar today and stay safe. If anyone has any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. Again, I'm Adam Crosley, CEO of Fairoaks IT. Have a great day and stay safe out there, guys.